power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it walks quietly, observes deeply, and responds strategically. When you learn to command your emotions, you learn to command yourself, and when you command yourself, nothing outside you has the power to destabilize you. Emotional mastery isn't about suppressing what you feel. It's about understanding your feelings so precisely that they do not dictate your actions, your tone, or your energy. Real strength is the capacity to remain calm when others expect you to break. It is the ability to choose clarity over chaos, reason over rage, truth over impulse. When you don't control your emotions, someone else will. And that is how most people lose power, not by force, but by their own reactions. Think about the moments when you lost your temper, felt offended, or acted out of frustration. Did the outcome serve you, or did it drain you? When people pull you into emotional reactions, they pull you into their advantage. Emotional control is not weakness. It is preparation, precision, and psychological strength. It allows you to see what others miss, to hear what others ignore, to think when others panic. People respect the person who can stay composed when others crumble. That composure is not coldness. It is dignity. It is intelligence. It is leadership. Imagine someone tries to provoke you. They raise their voice, they accuse, they push. The average person reacts, lashes out, fights to be right. The person with emotional command pauses, breathes, and answers only when they're sure of their words. And sometimes the most powerful answer is silence. Emotional power is not measured in how loudly you speak, but in how little anyone can pull you away from yourself. This discipline rewires your identity. You stop being an emotional reactor and become a deliberate strategist. You stop trying to win arguments and instead focus on winning respect, including your own. You learn that your peace is not given, it is built. Your reactions are your responsibility, not the world's. And once you internalize that truth, you become untouchable. Your emotions are signals, not commands. They inform you. They do not control you. The world tests people who do not yet know themselves, but the world cannot break someone who has done the internal work. You are here to learn how to hold your center, protect your mental space, and stand in your self-control like it's armor, because it is. Emotions are not random storms. They are data, signals from the mind and body trying to communicate something internal before it becomes external. Yet most people treat emotions as commands, not information. We feel anger and act on it. We feel fear and shrink because of it. We feel insecurity and allow it to dictate our choices. But emotional maturity begins when you recognize that what you feel does not define who you are. It only reveals where you are mentally, what you value, and what needs to be understood. Human behavior is driven by two core forces: perception and self-preservation. People react not to reality, but to what they believe reality is. When someone feels threatened, socially, emotionally, or psychologically, they defend themselves, often without realizing it. This is why you see anger where there is insecurity, arrogance where there is inadequacy, and emotional explosions where there is internal instability. A person who cannot regulate their emotions is not dangerous. They are fragile, because real power does not panic. It understands. When you study human emotion, you stop taking everything personally. You begin to see the layers behind people's behavior. A harsh comment may be someone's projection of their own fear. A disrespectful tone may come from someone who feels powerless and is desperate to assert control. A sudden reaction from a friend may not be about you at all. It could be their unresolved conflict, stress, or memory being triggered. Emotional intelligence gives you perspective, and perspective protects your peace. Think about a time someone overreacted to you. Maybe they raised their voice, accused you, or shut down. Your instinct may have been to respond emotionally, to defend yourself. But if you had paused, if you had observed rather than absorbed, you would have noticed something deeper. Their emotion was not about the moment. It was about something inside them they could not manage. You can always tell who controls the room. It's the person who controls themselves. There are 5 basic emotional drivers in human behavior: the need to feel seen, the desire to feel respected, the instinct to belong, the fear of loss, and the craving for certainty. Every emotional outburst, every defensive reaction, every conflict traces back to one of these psychological forces. A person who feels ignored demands attention. One who feels disrespected fights aggressively to reclaim dignity. Someone who fears loss tries to control, and those who lack certainty cling, chase, or collapse under uncertainty. When you understand these emotional drivers, you stop reacting and start analyzing. You become curious instead of combative. You ask yourself, what is really happening here? And that question gives you power. Likewise, your own emotions are shaped by these same internal forces. When you feel offended, ask yourself, is your ego feeling threatened, or is there truth you must face? When you feel jealousy, is it because someone wronged you, or because you doubt your own value? When you feel anger, is it really anger, or is it pain wearing armor? Self-honesty is the foundation of emotional mastery. You cannot control what you refuse to acknowledge. The most psychologically strong people do not avoid emotion, they understand it. They use emotion as a compass, not a cage. They say to themselves, I feel this. Why? What triggered it? What is the truth behind it? They look inward before acting outward. That internal pause is what separates those who lead their lives from those who are dragged by their impulses. Control is not proven in moments of comfort. It is revealed in moments of pressure. Anyone can appear composed when life is smooth, when people are cooperative, when the environment aligns with their expectations. But true emotional strength is measured when someone challenges you, disrespects you, misunderstands you, or tries to provoke you. In those moments, your instinct may surge, defend, respond, correct, retaliate. Yet reaction is not strength, it is surrender. It means the world has touched a part of you that you have not yet mastered. There is a moment, a very small one, between what you feel and what you choose to do. That is where emotional leadership begins. People who react immediately are ruled by emotion. They are pulled, pushed, controlled by external forces. They allow others to dictate their state of mind. But the person who pauses, breathes, and thinks before responding stands in authority over themselves. That pause is power. That silence is clarity. That restraint is maturity. Consider this. When someone triggers you, they are not controlling the situation. They are testing your control. If they can pull you into anger, you lose objectivity. If they can guilt you, they shape your decisions. If they can lure you into argument, they waste your time and energy. Often, people don't need to overpower you. They simply need you to overpower yourself through your own reactions. Imagine a colleague questions your competence publicly, trying to humiliate you. A reactive mindset feels attacked and retaliates immediately, perhaps raising your voice or sharpening your tone. Yes, you defend yourself, but at what cost? You match their emotional level, you display vulnerability to provocation, and you risk appearing defensive rather than confident. Now, imagine a response rooted in self-command. You stay calm. You look at them, steady, composed, unshaken, and reply with clarity and logic. Or perhaps you simply say, I'll address this after the meeting, and continue leading the room. That control speaks louder than anger ever could. You do not fight for respect, you command it. The truth is, emotional self-command is not passive. It is not silence born from fear or discomfort. It is silence chosen from strength. It is the ability to evaluate instead of explode, to prioritize dignity over ego, to understand that the person who moves second often moves smarter. Responding is not about being slow, it is about being deliberate. You do not speak because you feel the urge. You speak because you have chosen the impact you want your words to have. Reactions drain power. Responses build it. A reaction comes from insecurity, from instinct, from fear of losing control. A response comes from clarity, presence, and certainty. It is the difference between emotion owning you and you owning emotion. And this discipline is not developed in one moment. It is trained. Every time you resist the impulse to react, you sharpen your mind. Every time you take a breath before speaking, you condition your emotional muscles. Every moment of restraint becomes part of your identity. Someone who is not easily moved, easily provoked, easily shaken. And here is what many never learn. People trust and follow those who do not spiral. In conflict, they look to the grounded one. In chaos, they turn to the calm one. The world listens differently to someone who speaks from composure rather than from the heat of emotion. Even your internal dialogue shifts. Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" it becomes, "How do I choose to move through this?" This shift turns you from victim to strategist, from reactor to leader of your inner world. Self-command is not about denying emotion. It's about elevating above it. It's about saying, "Yes, I feel this, but I decide what happens next." That is real power. Not loud, not aggressive, not desperate for validation. Quiet, precise, intentional. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is not surrender. Silence is space. Space to think, to observe, to understand before you engage. Those who fear silence do so because they fear what it reveals: truth, insecurity, ego, and emotion they have not mastered. But those who cultivate silence use it as a weapon, a shield, and a discipline. In a world addicted to rapid reaction, silence is strategy. It gives you something most people never access: the power to see clearly while others are blinded by their own emotions. Composure is not a personality trait. It is a trained response. It is built every time you sit with discomfort instead of rushing to relieve it, every time you hold your center while someone tries to pull you off balance, every time you choose restraint over emotional release. The most formidable people in any room are not the loudest. They are the ones who can remain steady when the environment shifts, when tempers rise, when uncertainty surrounds them. Their calm is not an accident. It is a decision, a conscious choice to avoid becoming a product of chaos. Consider a heated conversation. Voices rise, emotion builds. Someone throws a sharp comment meant to provoke you. The average person reacts, trying to defend their pride, trying to force respect through volume or force. But the emotionally disciplined individual stays grounded. They let silence breathe in the room. That pause unsettles the aggressor because people expect immediate reaction. When it doesn't come, they lose their psychological footing. Silence becomes command, without confrontation, and when you finally speak, your voice carries authority, not desperation. This does not mean silence is always the answer. Tactical silence is purposeful. It is used to gather information, to give yourself a moment to choose your words, and to demonstrate that you do not move just because someone else wants you to. Composure works similarly. It is not about appearing emotionless. It is about being emotionally sovereign. When you master composure, you are no longer dragged by the emotional climate around you. You create your own internal weather. Calm, focused, strong. Think about interrogators, negotiators, or elite leaders, the kind Evy Poumpouras often describes. Their strength is not in speaking quickly or reacting emotionally. Their strength lies in patience and observation. They read tone, body language, timing. They listen not just to what is said, but what is not said. Silence becomes a source of information. Stillness becomes a method of control. Their calm disarms people, lowers defenses, and reveals truth. This is tactical emotional strength, the strength to sit with uncertainty long enough to understand it, instead of rushing to escape it. In your everyday life, this might look like not responding immediately to a disrespectful message, choosing not to argue with someone who only seeks drama, or pausing before answering a difficult question so you speak from clarity, not emotion. It may look like walking away instead of proving a point, or choosing to say nothing when words would only drain your energy with no meaningful return. Silence protects your peace. Composure protects your dignity. Together, they protect your power. There will be moments where silence feels uncomfortable, where part of you wants to defend, explain, react. That is ego seeking relief. Strength is denying ego the microphone and letting discipline speak instead. Tell yourself, if the situation threatens my peace, I respond only when I choose, not when pressured. There is confidence in that mindset. Quiet, grounded, unwavering confidence. Confidence is not loud, it does not demand attention, and it does not beg to be validated. True confidence is quiet, controlled, and internal, a steady certainty that does not fluctuate based on who approves or who criticizes. People often misunderstand confidence as dominance or superiority. Real confidence is simply this: you trust yourself, you respect yourself, and because of that, you do not need the world to constantly reassure you. Self-respect is the foundation of emotional strength. When you respect yourself, you protect your peace. You do not argue with disrespect. You do not chase acceptance. You do not tolerate treatment that diminishes your dignity. Boundaries are not walls, they are standards. They communicate what you allow into your life and what you refuse to carry. And when you enforce your boundaries under pressure, when holding your line feels uncomfortable but you do it anyway, that is where confidence grows. Many people set boundaries only when things are calm, only when the situation is easy. But strength is not measured in ease, it is revealed in tension. The moment someone tests your self-respect, the moment they push to see if you will bend, that is where your true identity shows. Do you fold to avoid conflict, or do you stand because your peace matters more than someone else's approval? Real confidence does not fear distance. It fears losing oneself. Imagine someone speaking to you in a dismissive tone, undermining your value. A reactive person tries to prove themselves, to win the moment, to argue for respect. A confident person does not fight for recognition. They walk away from places where they are not valued. They understand that energy is currency, and where you invest it determines what grows in your life. If someone repeatedly crosses your boundaries, you don't convince them to treat you better. You remove access to you. That is not arrogance, it is self-respect. Self-respect under pressure also shows in how you speak to yourself. When you fail, when things go wrong, when plans collapse, do you crumble and attack yourself? Or do you stand with yourself? Emotional mastery requires rooting for yourself even when life tests you. Confidence is built not by perfection, but by staying loyal to yourself in imperfection. You tell yourself, I can rebuild, I can reassess, I can rise again. You don't abandon your identity when challenged, you reinforce it. Boundaries become especially powerful when emotions run high. You may be tempted to respond to disrespect with anger, to match negativity with force, but emotional strength is choosing discretion over reaction. You can address wrongdoing calmly. You can state your standard without losing your center. I don't accept being spoken to that way. This conversation will continue when there is mutual respect. If you choose hostility, I choose distance. Simple, direct, grounded. These statements come from strength, not defensiveness. Weakness argues, confidence declares. Weakness explodes, confidence maintains composure. Weakness fears losing connection. Confidence fears losing self-respect. And here is the truth many avoid: boundaries will cost you people. But losing people who require you to betray yourself is not loss. It is liberation. The relationships that remain, the ones built on mutual respect and healthy energy, become deeper, stronger, and more authentic because they are rooted in truth, not insecurity. When pressure rises, whether in conflict, in uncertainty, or in emotional turbulence, remind yourself who you are. Do not shrink, do not chase. Do not negotiate your worth for temporary acceptance. You do not need to prove value that already exists. Confidence is quiet certainty, not performance. Boundaries are dignity in action, not aggression. Stand in your standards, even if your voice trembles the first few times. Hold your line, even when someone calls it rude or difficult. Only people who benefit from your lack of boundaries will criticize your standards. Your peace is not up for debate. Emotional mastery is not a gift. It is trained. It is shaped through repetition, through disciplined thinking, through intentional inner work. You do not become emotionally strong simply by wanting to be strong. You become strong by conditioning your mind the same way an elite athlete conditions the body, consistently, deliberately, and with patience. Emotional discipline is a muscle, and every choice you make either strengthens it or weakens it. Begin with awareness. Awareness is the foundation of control because you cannot command what you do not recognize. Most people operate on automatic emotional patterns: anger triggered by disrespect, fear triggered by uncertainty, insecurity triggered by comparison. These reactions feel instinctive, but they are learned. And what is learned can be unlearned. The first step is noticing your triggers without judgment. Instead of reacting, you pause internally and observe the feeling. This emotion is rising. Why? What belief is being challenged? What meaning am I assigning to this moment? This internal questioning interrupts the emotional autopilot and creates space to choose. Next, build the practice of controlled breathing. It sounds simple, almost too simple. Yet controlled breathing is one of the most powerful nervous system tools you have. When something provokes you, your heart rate increases, adrenaline rises, and your body prepares for fight, flight, or freeze. A single slow breath interrupts that biological cascade. It sends a signal to the brain. We are safe. We respond. We do not react. A 4-second inhale, a 2-second hold, a 6-second exhale. Do it quietly, unnoticed. This technique trains your physiology to obey your intention, not your impulse. Then cultivate emotional detachment, not coldness, but perspective. Detachment means you see emotion without becoming it. It means you recognize when a situation is pulling on ego, fear, or insecurity, and you refuse to be swept away. You remind yourself, I do not need to win this moment. I need to protect my peace. Detachment is strength disguised as stillness. It allows you to analyze instead of absorb. It gives you the ability to endure uncomfortable emotions rather than escape them. Mental conditioning also involves reframing. Your thoughts are not passive, they shape your emotional environment. When you face adversity, ask yourself, what is this teaching me? How can I use this? What quality is being developed in me right now? Patience, discipline, resilience? Growth is uncomfortable because discomfort forces evolution. Emotionally strong people are not without struggle. They simply refuse to let struggle weaken them. And here is something often overlooked. You must train your baseline, not just your crisis response. How you speak to yourself daily matters. If your inner dialogue is harsh, panicked, or self-critical, you build fragility. If your inner dialogue is steady, honest, encouraging, you build strength. You cannot talk to yourself like an enemy and expect internal peace. Emotional mastery means becoming your own ally. Another crucial tool is practice in controlled environments. Purposefully place yourself in situations that challenge patience, ego, and discipline. Sit in silence without reaching for your phone. Let someone finish speaking before you reply. Listen to criticism without immediately explaining or defending yourself. End the conversation that drains you. Walk away from the argument that offers no growth. These small exercises build extraordinary internal power. Strength is not created in chaos. It is revealed there, but it is built in quiet moments of discipline. Finally, protect your inputs. Your emotional state is influenced by what you consume: conversations, media, environments, people. Surround yourself with calm energy, disciplined voices, grounded influences. If someone's presence disturbs your peace consistently, limit access. You train your emotions by controlling what you allow into your mental space. Emotional mastery does not mean you never feel. It means you feel fully, but you choose your actions with intention. You lead your emotions instead of letting them lead you. Over time, this training becomes identity. You wake up calm. You move with clarity. You speak with purpose. You carry your power quietly, confidently, without forcing it. This is mental conditioning, not dramatic, not glamorous, consistent, intentional, daily. And when life tests you, as it inevitably will, those repetitions become your strength. You do not crumble. You do not break. You adjust. You breathe. You move deliberately. Because you have trained your mind not to submit to chaos, but to rise above it. To become unshakable is not to eliminate emotion, difficulty, or uncertainty from your life. That is impossible. Becoming unshakable means building an internal world so grounded, so disciplined, and so self-led that no external force can uproot you. It is the art of standing firm when circumstances shift, when people test you, when life throws unpredictability and pressure in your path. Strength is not the absence of storms, it is the ability to remain steady within them. Many people live life outward, reacting, seeking validation, comparing themselves, trying to control what is outside. They look for stability in other people, in circumstances, in outcomes. But whatever relies on the external will eventually fall. True power begins when you turn inward and build strength at the core. Your mind becomes your anchor, your emotions become signals rather than rulers, your self-respect becomes non-negotiable. You do not seek peace, you carry it. You do not chase validation, you embody worth. You do not need constant certainty, you trust your ability to adapt and lead through uncertainty. The unshakable individual does not rise above life, they rise through life. They understand that challenges are not attacks, but invitations. Invitations to fortify the self, to refine discipline, to deepen resilience. Nothing builds you like resistance. When something tries to break you, that is your training. When a situation forces you to confront fear, that is your evolution. When someone tests your composure or dignity, that is your arena. Strength is forged in these moments, not in comfort, not in applause, not when things are simple. Emotional psychology teaches us that people are not broken by events, they are broken by the meaning they attach to those events. The unshakable mind is trained to choose meaning that empowers rather than destroys. When something goes wrong, the average mind declares defeat. Why is this happening to me? The unshakable mind asks, what is this building in me? Pain becomes purpose, pressure becomes refinement, resistance becomes fuel. The situation does not weaken them, it strengthens them from the inside. Self-trust is a critical pillar of being unshakable. If you do not trust yourself to handle adversity, you will always fear it. You will avoid risks, silence your voice, hesitate when opportunity comes, and react defensively when challenged. But when you trust yourself, when you have witnessed your own resilience, your discipline, your capacity to stay composed even when afraid, fear loses its grip. You don't need the world to guarantee safety because you trust your ability to navigate whatever arrives. You stop questioning your strength and start relying on it. This self-trust grows from consistency, not perfection. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you build it. Every time you remain calm when agitation rises, you build it. Every time you refuse to fold in the face of emotional discomfort, you build it. You look in the mirror and recognize someone who will not abandon themselves, someone who can be counted on. That is internal power. And when you can count on yourself, the world becomes far less intimidating. Another defining trait of the unshakable individual is emotional sovereignty, the refusal to let others dictate your state. People will project, provoke, misunderstand, and attempt to trigger insecurities when your self-worth depends on perception or validation. Their words hold power over you, but when your identity is rooted in internal certainty, their opinions lose influence. You listen, you evaluate, but you do not internalize what does not align with your truth. Silence becomes your shield. Stillness becomes your statement. You do not fight for your value. You live it. Still, becoming unshakable is not about emotional isolation or pretending emotions do not exist. It requires emotional processing, emotional literacy, emotional honesty. When something affects you, you acknowledge it without letting it dictate your behavior. You sit with your feelings rather than reacting from them. You don't suppress. You study. You identify triggers, patterns, and narratives that once held power over you, and you dismantle them piece by piece. This is not weakness. It is mastery. It takes courage to sit with discomfort without rushing to escape it. Strength is born in that stillness. To become unshakable, you also cultivate patience, a quality the reactive world resists. Patience is not passivity. It is strategic restraint. It is understanding that not every battle needs to be fought. Not every insult deserves response. Not every emotion requires expression. The unshakable person knows timing is power. They do not rush decisions. They do not chase outcomes. They do not crumble under urgency. They move when it is right, not when pushed. And because they are not in a hurry to prove anything, they rarely make impulsive mistakes. A powerful mindset shift in this journey is learning to differentiate between control and influence. You do not try to control people or circumstances. That is wasted energy. You control your attitude, your actions, your boundaries, your inner state. Everything else you influence through presence, clarity, and consistency. You operate from what you can command, yourself, and that is what makes you formidable. Real inner power also means embracing solitude, not loneliness, but solitude as a training ground. Time alone strengthens the self. It teaches you to regulate without distraction, to think without noise, to stand without needing external reinforcement. People who fear being alone often fear facing themselves. But when you can sit with yourself confidently, you become untouchable. Solitude becomes a sanctuary, not a threat. And finally, understand this. Becoming unshakable is not about being invulnerable. It is about being unbreakable in spirit. You will feel pain. You will feel doubt. You will face moments that challenge your core. But instead of collapsing, you bend without breaking. You adjust without losing yourself. You remain rooted in who you are, in what you stand for, in the values you refuse to compromise. You carry yourself with quiet certainty, not arrogance, with humility, not defensiveness, with inner stability that does not collapse when disrupted. People feel your presence not because you demand attention, but because you emanate strength. Calm strength, silent strength, strength that does not need applause, permission, or recognition. When you reach this level, conflicts don't intimidate you. You navigate them. Stress doesn't paralyze you. You breathe through it. Loss does not erase you. You rebuild patiently. Disrespect does not trigger you. You withdraw your energy and guard your dignity. You do not force control. You are control. Becoming unshakable is not a destination. It is a practice. Every day you choose calm over chaos, clarity over ego, dignity over reaction. Every day you choose to stand in your power. And with time, something extraordinary happens. Life stops feeling like something that can overwhelm you and begins to feel like something you are fully capable of commanding from the inside out. In the end, remember this. Greatness is never loud, and real power never has to announce itself. The strongest people are not the ones who demand attention. They are the ones who command respect without ever asking for it. You do not rise by trying to impress the world. You rise by improving yourself until the world has no choice but to notice. Every quiet step you take, every sacrifice you make, every moment you choose discipline over comfort builds a future that noise can never create. Do not rush. Do not seek applause. Focus on growth, not recognition. True strength is earned in the shadows long before it shines in the light. Let your silence work for you. Let your patience sharpen you, and let your consistency elevate you. One day, those who doubted you will fall silent, not because you argued with them, but because your success spoke for you. Your journey is not about proving others wrong. It is about proving to yourself that you are always capable. Move with purpose, act with intention, and stay rooted in quiet confidence. Your time will come, not with noise, but with undeniable presence. And when it does, the world will feel it.